Good afternoon folks and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be continuing on our journey. A lot of people have been telling me to branch out, play other games and experience things, and what a lot of people don't realize is I actually play a lot of games off stream and a lot of games that I just never make content on, and a lot of the time I've had a really cool experience and I don't really share it with you. So this is your chance to support me branching out. I've just finished the Valheim video. You land in the ground, you survive. Super cool procedurally generated game, really enjoyed it, and it inspired me to play more co-op games, and I found a game called Remnant from the Ashes. I believe this has been out since 2019. You're going to get through it in around like 8 to 10 hours leisure time, I would say, if you're playing with a friend, maybe even a little bit quicker. So it fits the bill of a game where it's not going to take me hundreds of hours to complete. It's a third-person game, it's a looter shooter, and it also has a bit of randomization slash kind of procedural generation, but not really, and today I want to show that with you. So, Remnant of the Ashes begins, and you're plopped down into this world, and you are immediately told to effectively get your stuff, kill a few bad guys in a tutorial-based system, and most of the gameplay itself goes like the following. You right click, you're going to be shooting your gun, and if you left click, you're going to be meleeing. So it's quite fluid that you can chop and change between the two, and I really like the fact that the tutorial level didn't force you into a zone where you're shooting robots and it's telling you, look here to go left, and you got to grips with like, okay, this is how the game's going to play, and then you began. Because tutorial levels do irritate me. I understand their importance, but you can still make them fun, and the little tutorial level introduced me nicely to the content, so that was a good start. The character creation scene wasn't spectacular in terms of maybe graphics and just, for me, my own personal style. There was more hair colors, more eye colors, skin tones, like styles, voices. I did think it beat Outriders, the game we just kind of reviewed. Nothing spectacular to write home about, but it was a solid enough character creation scene, in my opinion. Now, when you begin into the game, the first thing I noticed about this was the game itself looks fantastic. Now, I am playing this in 1440p max. Now, obviously, YouTube compression is a thing, and it's not going to make it look nearly as good as it does in real life. But it looks a fantastic game, and I was very surprised at the level of detail. The graphics in this, spectacular, I thought. Now, the gameplay itself, as you can see, it's a little bit Dark Souls. You can roll off the map, you die, you respawn. You need to find what are called checkpoints, but are sort of like bonfires from Dark Souls. And you then have this kind of main city slash town area where once you've portaled back, you can exchange your goods that you found in the world, purchase some upgrades, purchase some like consumables that might help you to remove stuff like rot. These are ailments that the enemies apply to you, and it's kind of like an interesting concept of a game, because you upgrade your gear just like most of these games. You can purchase weapons that have modifiers, purchase armor that has kind of traits and class sets. If you wear the full lot, you'll get the full trait. And the weapons themselves have mods attached to them, which you can remove and place on another gun. Or sometimes the weapon has the mod forced onto it, and it's kind of like a special ability, almost like a passive that's locked to that gun. And there wasn't a staggering amount of guns available to me on my first playthrough, but there was enough for me to enjoy, and there was enough different things for me to go, hey, this is pretty neat, and I didn't feel bored, and I didn't feel like I wish I had another gun. There was enough there to keep me happy. And it's a bit like a living world. So if I'm talking to the vendor, your friend can't talk to them because they're busy. And I kind of like that. It adds an element of realism. It's just a small thing, but I did find it interesting. You can upgrade your guns with scrap and other metals, which you can find or purchase through like destroying objects. Mostly the game keeps you on the straight and narrow, and you're just doing the objective. So what is the game itself? Well, the game itself is a third-person shooter, and you go through this cloud of smoke again, kind of like the boss fights, and that's what this game is, surprisingly. So this game is, if you play it on super easy mode, you can kind of just deal with all of the enemies, zerg them down, shoot them in the face, use your abilities, use your healing potions, and get through the game, and it's an enjoyable experience. However, if you crank up the difficulty, you're going to have to start learning what the AI patterns are, what each enemy does and their little animations, kind of dodge and how to counter things. And it can become very difficult, and it does become a Souls-like game. Maybe it's not the super high-end Souls-like game, but there is enough of it in there to be like, if you're playing on your own and you're running, you're like, oof, I don't want to die. So it definitely has options. You can play it as a looter shooter and upgrade your gear and casually go through, or you can play it as a kind of Souls-like game, and I like that. This is a clip of us just breaking some pots down for some scrap, which we can then use in turn to upgrade our guns, cool little rolling animations. And what's nice about this, as you can see, if we pick up the loot is shared, so there's no fighting over loot. If somebody's over in the corner and picks some up, you also get it. Now, this was a tome we picked up, and a tome gives you skill points, and this allows you to increase your character's powers and focus on certain niches. There's a ton of stuff you can do to change the way your character plays with a nice amount of traits. I liked that. I really did think the skill system was very neat. As always, the graphic options in the game are absolutely sufficient. It looked very good. It performed very well. Always getting high refresh rate frame rates. Yes, I am on a top-end system of a Ryzen 9 5950X and an RTX 3080, but some games don't run very well. That's just the nature. This one does. So I really did enjoy the way that the game ran, looked, and handled, and that obviously makes you want to play more. And yeah, so we carried on. The levels themselves change, but kind of the route you take doesn't change. So what happens is, if you play through one mission at the beginning of the game, there might be a certain boss, there might be a certain room layout, and if you're to go and redo that, it might be entirely different. There might be a different boss there, or there might be a different staircase and the level may have slightly switched. It's all similar, but there is enough difference for you to go, okay, this is pretty neat, this is interesting. For example, the first boss we fought in this area was kind of like this slug looking dude that just kind of mauled us down with this big axe. The second time, he was called Shroud, and he had a crossbow. He kind of blinked, and you had to buzz him down, and I was using a scoped gun. And even though that was the same level, same zone, same area, it changed entirely. And different runs can reveal different areas. The first time we played through, this area wasn't available to us. The second time we did, we kind of nipped down the side of this church, went down the stairs, and we found a sniper rifle, which is obviously neat, and that changes how you play the game. So there's enough randomization and kind of generation to make you want to replay the game. There isn't a staggering end game. Most of the game is effectively like you complete the game and then you can crank up the difficulty and treat it like a Souls game. Or if you think you missed anything or you want to rerun the campaign, you can rerun it, and it kind of changes with its generation and its randomization, and I thought that was really neat. So maybe the one area of the game it lacks is the end game, but as a game, as a sit down, hey, let's play and complete a story game and have a looter shooter, really enjoyed it. Took us about 10 hours, and we got about halfway through the second difficulty before we went, okay, you know, I'm going to make the YouTube video now, I'll move on, and me and my friends moved on. But I really did enjoy it. The fights themselves are pretty damn interesting. As explained, if you're on the lower difficulty, you can kind of treat it like a looter shooter. Run up, buzz some bad guys down, pick up their loot, check it's an upgrade, check it's not an upgrade. If it's on the more difficult, you might have to dodge some animations, learn patterns of attacks, and just the environments were cool. For example, like this warden we were fighting. On the easier difficulty, we could kind of just surg him down. On the harder difficulty, we had to focus on kind of his swords as a mechanic and dealing with them. And the passives and the items, just to note, there are some interesting ones. For example, there is a ring that puts you on low life, so that kind of halves your HP. If you're on low life, you can then wear a necklace and other gear that buffs your damage when you're below a certain HP threshold. So there's definitely options for you to play the game in a unique way. There are classes, a couple of classes, I think there might be 3 or 4 if I remember correctly. I was playing as this kind of sniper guy, Logic was playing as a sort of healing tank, and what happens is once you've killed the bosses you might get a piece of equipment off them that you take back to town, and you can then use that to sort of purchase one of kind of the boss's mod style weapons. And overall, I thought the game was very, very fun. I definitely would recommend it. Now, I wouldn't recommend spending $60 on this game. I don't think it was a $60 game because of it's kind of a one and done, maybe a second playthrough. But the environment's very, very cool. Lighting, graphics look spectacular. And I really did like using this M16 gun, this kind of burst scope. When you modify a weapon, it kind of changes the visuals as well. So if you put kind of a poison modifier on it, it visually changes. Obviously, it's got the Diablo-style numbers popping up on the head to show how much damage you're doing. I really did enjoy the game. I found it very, very good. If it comes in at around £20 to £30, I think you'll have good fun. It might even be free on the Epic Game Store from time to time, and I'm sure on consoles, if it's available on consoles, which I believe it is, it's probably not too expensive being a 2019 game. So overall, Remnant of the Ashes definitely scratched the itch of a third-person looter shooter with a few more difficult boss mechanics, and I really did enjoy the game. So let me know what you think about that. That was Remnant of the Ashes. Cool environments, neat gun sounds as well. Generally quite an aesthetic game. Fun mechanics as well, which is the most important thing. You can have a game which looks awesome and a game that has a ton of depth, but if it's not actually fun, who wants to play it? A tactic we were doing was we had this necklace on where if I used a heal, it would go through to one of our co-op friends. So we were kind of chain healing each other. We had an ultimate ability that would spur out this green healing, and we kind of got through the game using healing rather than kind of knowing the mechanics, so that was an option. But I thought it was very, very fun. Very, very fun game. And it was a pleasure to play and showcase this. The next game we're thinking of playing through is, well, I'm not too sure what that is. You'll have to find out. But hopefully we'll see you in the video. And as you can see, here are the credits. We did finish the game. I did play the game. I don't really want to review a game without putting a decent amount of time into it. But yeah, we finished the game, had a blast, and we'll probably be moving on to another game. And if you like this series and you want to see me showcase other games in a quick format, it's not a 2-hour long review, it's not super serious, it's just me giving my opinions. If you like this kind of content, do give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing, because 83% of you that watch the channel are not subscribed. And if you do, ring that bell so you don't miss videos. If you want to go a step further and support a smaller channel and his journey to trying to become, I guess, a bit of a content creator, you can hit that join button, and for as little as $1.99 you get access to some member specific videos, some perks, and you can come hang out in the Discord as well. So that was Remnant from the Ashes. Thanks for tuning in to my little playthrough and discussion. I'll see you in the next one.